Hey, happy Tuesday. We are live at you for our market stats for the week of July 11th to 18th. Now, the summer real estate market definitely is in full bloom, if that's what you want to call it. It's very busy. We're starting to see a lot of sales come through. I equate it to the fact that our interest rates changed. And so it motivated people to make a move because they're going to lose the hold they've got. So we're going to talk a little bit about if you own a house, what you should be doing, if you have a variable or a fixed rate, or what you should even be doing. But we'll chat about that in a second. So if you take a look at what is currently on the market, we have 2,918 listings in Edmonton. So we have a little bit more than we did last year at this time. And I suspect that we will start to see this number continue to rise over the next few months, just because people are finally ready to put their house on the market and things aren't going to sell. Probably nearer to September. There's a lot of people moving in before September or September. In Edmonton, our snow starts to fall and fly October 31st. Typically, Halloween kids are wearing snowsuits, not Halloween costumes. If you take a look in St. Albert, Sherwood Park, and Spruce Grove, they're all really similar to what they were last week at this time. So nothing too surprising. And then if we take a look at pending sales, so these are deals that were written in the last week, we have seen a little drop in Edmonton, in St. Albert, and Sherwood Park's been the same, and Spruce Grove a little bit higher. So what does that mean? It just means, like I told you last week, was already busier than it has been. It's just keeping consistent. Honestly, there's not a huge enough uptick or downtick to be concerned about this from week over week. But we do see consistently July is going to be stronger, my guess, than June was. So we'll take a look and see at the end of the month, we'll see all of the stats. And then in August, I always put out what happened in the month of July. So sold in the last 7 days, we had 205 versus 197 in Edmonton, and St. Albert 18 over 14, Sherwood Park a little less, and Spruce Grove 16 of 14. We are seeing some pending deals not go through. This is actually becoming, unfortunately, quite common where financing is not going through. Why is financing not going through if the person's pre-approved? I'm going to give you my anecdotal reasons as to why some of these deals aren't happening this year and why we're seeing so much of it this year. We have buyers who are still going out without a pre-approval, and the realtors are okay with that. There's an issue when it comes to that because then when you write up an offer and the pre-approval would have told you it wouldn't have worked, that's one of my reasons. The second reason is that even if they got a pre-approval, maybe they got a pre-approval with someone who wasn't as experienced and then realized that they forgot to do something. And then all of a sudden that pre-approval that we thought was good is not good. So I highly recommend being very careful if you're a seller to make sure that you know that these are actually pre-approved properly. And as a realtor, realtors tend to not work with people who aren't pre-approved. There are always going to be agents that work. And if you just call the sign because you think you're saving money, I'll give you a spoiler alert. You're not saving any money. You're actually losing representation. So it's really important to make sure you're represented. And on the selling side, you want to make sure that everything's hunky-dory because you're going to get deals pending and then back on the market. We had the same thing happen. Sometimes there's nothing you can do and there's no control. You've checked all of the checks and then it still comes out and doesn't go through. So just be careful. We were in multiple offers on one listing. It went pending and then it non-waived and then we went pending. We had multiples again. So as long as things are still moving relatively quickly, anything between 300 to 450 is moving quite quickly. In the new build world, you're looking at a bit higher. You're looking from 400 to 600. That price point's moving very quick in the new build world. Well, let's take a look at last week. Last year compared to the year before, 205 versus 250 last year. So last year was still stronger. And if you don't remember me saying this last week, our market in July of last year was very, 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 very slow. And I know that in the first half of the year was unseasonably fast, but it was really slow. And the fact that we're selling less also means we're even slower than we were last year. Now, if you take a look at St. Albert, you've got 18 versus 25, so about 7 different than the year before. Sherwood Park's the same, about 7, and Spruce Grove 8. So we're still tracking slower than we were last year in Edmonton and surrounding areas. It doesn't mean that the prices are dropping to nothing. The prices are still pretty consistent. Sellers, I think for the most part, have adjusted their expectations to what their pricing should be. And if the interest rates continue to rise, and the demand starts to drop in terms of sales, you will see the markets shift back over to a buyer's market, which it hasn't been in a very long time. It was a buyer's market for the longest time in Alberta, but then in 2020 it changed over to a seller's market, and now we're sitting in a more of a balanced market, but it is starting to show trends of a buyer's market. It doesn't mean though that you can lowball. The lowballs never work because sellers get really offended. And personally, if you think about yourself in their shoes, I think you would be offended too. If it's market value, then a lowball is warranted. But if the value of the homes show that you can get this value of the price, it's not really the greatest thing to do. Now, you can get deals with new builders, some of them. Their construction timelines are starting to become more predictable again. But also keep in mind, because they've seen a significant drop in their sales as well, we're starting to see things change in terms of what kind of quality they're starting to put out in some of these homes. Some of their specs are changing because they are seeing that buyers always want these deals, but they can't make it work. Now, I find it really interesting that they always ask the trades to discount their amount that they have to pay, and then the builders still make that little bit of money. But I'm just saying, careful which builder you go with. There's different builders, there's different options. There's still a lot of options in the resale, but it's different, right? You're taking on a different capacity. With resale, you've got a lot of stuff done: grass, window coverings, the house has been lived in for a while. You just have to save up. You got bigger lots too. All the new houses have typically smaller lots, and it's going to be more of a challenge, and you will pay a premium for those larger lots. The developers aren't really doing a whole lot there. And you will hear a little bit more from me next week, a little bit more about new builds in the future. But in terms of the resale market, it's still very strong. You're going to get decent sized garages in these resale homes. You're going to get decent sized yards, and the home is already going to kind of know. You're not going to wonder if this house is okay or not okay because it's been lived in. So there's some really good options there. You got to be careful with what you get. You do a home inspection, do a sewer scope. We did that, and now we've found out some interesting information. So it's really important that you know what you're getting yourself into. The state of the market is very much a buyer's market. We're going to talk about if you should fix your variable rate, if you should get a variable rate, or you should get a fixed. We'll chat next week. Have a good day.